Let's kick things off. Good morning and welcome back to our Zoom meetings. I think we've taken a little bit of a hiatus after the summer, and I'm sure many of you probably wanted to do the same after your summers, or maybe you kept going. Maybe you kept going with rentals and are ready to pack things up, at least for the winter. We were talking with folks about winter rentals as well. So for today, let me kick off first. I always forget to do this, but I am Jim Rees, CEO of We Need a Vacation, and with me is Joan Talmadge, and she is the owner of We Need a Vacation. For those that have not been with us on these previous Zoom meetings, Joan, you wanted to just kick things off and before we get into the rental market and the rental industry, talk and a message to homeowners.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how proud we all were of our homeowners this summer. It was by far the most challenging summer any of us have had in the 23 years that we've been in business. We thought the lodging tax was a challenge, but that was nothing compared to what we all experienced this summer. And we feel that you all did such a good job of preparing your homes and communicating with your guests, and that was all so important. And I was bracing myself for the worst for a lot of problems, and we just really didn't have. I mean, we had our usual few, but we're just very proud of the way you orchestrated this entire summer. So kudos to you.
Great. And with that, I think I will move into today's meeting. We have our owner series that we're kicking off with a series about 4 meetings. Today, we're talking about, and I'm going to show a presentation here. So let me share my screen. And then I'll appear up in the upper right-hand corner. There you go. All right, so today we are going to be talking about managing your rental in the age of COVID. Of course, what other topics are top of hand? And the next few series, if you're interested in joining, go check out the schedule. We'll send out the schedule after this. We'll have a few other topics that we're going to touch upon over the next few weeks. Today's meeting, we're going to run similar to the previous Zoom meetings we ran over the summer, where Joan and I are going to present a few things to the group here. And then at the end, maybe we'll split this in half. We'll open it up for general Q&A and get some questions from all the attendees here. Bear with us for the initial part while we present some of our background information on this past summer and our look ahead. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. So for today, we do have a few topics that we're going to run through. We'll look back at the summer of 2020 and then, and then go through a few other predictions for what do we see for next year? How do we prepare ourselves? What are things that homeowners should be thinking about now? What should homeowners be thinking about to prepare their vacation rental listing or to prepare their home and communicate with their past guests? And what else did we learn through the summer of 2020? Of course, the first thing that is on everyone's mind is what will the 2021 season be like? We have a lot of things that are unpredictable at this point. We're in a situation where it's hard to predict what the economy is going to be like, what the situation with the whole pandemic is going to be like. Are there going to be restrictions still in place? A lot of uncertainties there. So it does make it challenging to forecast what will the next year be like. However, that being said, the one very good thing that we have going for us is that I think if it's anything like the summer of 2020, we know that the demand will be there. The demand for the Cape and Islands rentals, and I will show this chart on the next slide here. The demand for rentals in 2020 was beyond anything that we've seen in our 23-year history. If you've joined our Zoom meetings during the summer, you're familiar with this chart. This chart shows the spike of activity that occurred once the vacation rentals were reopened starting in June. And these hit levels, again, that were about 3 times the levels that we normally see during the summer months. And so many of you got to enjoy those increased levels of activity. They did come it seemed like all at once after a big lull during the March and April time period. But it's good to see the fact that even in the midst of all the restrictions and the pandemic that we were going through, that the demand here was extremely high. In addition to that, the benefit that we're also seeing is that the vacation rental industry in itself for the Cape and Islands is strong. And we know that the Cape and Islands vacation rental industry is well established. It's been around for years, for generations. Families come back year after year. Those folks, again, when we reached this summer, they definitely were interested in keeping their vacations, keeping their traditions, and they continue to come back. What we saw here this summer was that not only did we get the returning vacationers, but we had a huge increase in the number of new vacationers that came through our site to inquire on homes. And these new vacationers, these may be new vacationers that have never stayed in a vacation rental before, or they've never visited the Cape and Islands. And so we have first-time visitors coming through our site, and we're happy with, say, a 10% increase in new vacationers year after year. So this was really a boon for us and for you to receive these new vacationers, and hopefully these vacationers are ones that now will continue to come back either to your rental or just to our site in general, and you'll be on the receiving end of that. The interest continues to grow, and it's something that you see if you follow the vacation rental industry. People are still talking about how the industry in itself is continually growing, and that's even with a well-established area like the Cape and Islands. It's good to see that the interest there is still strong. As you also know, many vacationers this year, the vast majority came from the Northeast, from New England, New York, New Jersey. While that's true every year, I think it's even more so this year that a lot of these folks that came to our site and to your homes came from the New England region, Northeast again. And because of that, they're more likely to return next year. These aren't, a lot of these new vacationers, they're not flying in. They weren't flying in this year from overseas or from California, for long distances. Vast majority were coming from the Northeast, which again bodes well for those folks returning following year. Once we got through the summer, we've been continuing to monitor all of our traffic to the site. We've seen strong activity again continue through the fall. We're not at 3 times level, but we're still seeing significant activity. Right before the meeting started, we heard from Brian saying that he was already fully booked with a lot of 2-weekers. There's been a lot of off-season activity. So we're seeing both the website traffic, the searches, and inquiries still extremely high, and the interest level is not just for one particular period of time. We're seeing that we've seen strong activity through this fall. The demand for rentals continued beyond the summer into the fall, and now we're starting to see that same level of activity happen, and folks are planning their vacations again in the spring and in next summer. And that's showing. We ran our booking numbers yesterday. And our booking numbers, we were looking at these are early bookings. So through October 19th, people that are planning in advance for next spring, next summer, even into the fall, we're seeing that there's been an 89% increase overall for the Cape and Islands in those bookings. So Brian, you're not alone. There are many folks that are seeing that their homes are being booked up even now, and likely that's a benefit of a lot of repeat bookings and a lot of folks trying to just get a jump on their bookings, their plans for next summer. And last here, for my part, what are we looking for what would we be predicting for next summer? Main question is restrictions. We talked endlessly about the restrictions, the guidelines that came out this summer, and what that meant and how you had to change your practices and what will that look like next summer. And that's really hard to predict. However, I think we can say that there will likely be some level of restrictions still in place. There'll be some level of guidelines, cleaning guidelines, those that existed today, likely going to continue to exist next summer. So we should anticipate that. That being said, again, the benefit for us is that we've been through this. We've been through it once. As Joan mentioned, homeowners stepped up and made sure that they were able to meet the demands of those restrictions and guidelines and do that successfully. And so if we have to go through this another year, I think we're well prepared knowing what those are, how to approach that. The demand itself, what we would expect is, we had that big lull in April and March and April, and I would anticipate that the demand is going to continue to stay high. However, we won't see the huge influx in June and July, which was last minute. I think that'll be more spread out. We'll see activity pick up. It's going to continue through this fall. As always, it always picks up even more so in January. I think we'll see that again, and it'll hopefully this year, stay level and continual throughout, and we're not going to be faced with the uncertainty of, are we going to have a summer? I mean, we will have a new season, a summer, and know that we can be successful doing so. And then lastly, the off-season demand continues to remain strong, and we've gone through this again in our meetings before, and just talking about how there's high demand, whether it's long-term rentals, whether it's professionals looking to get away from their homes and they want to work remotely because they can. There are couples and young families with young kids. It really, the restriction, because of all the remote learning for schools and the remote work, the opportunities to get away is still high. And where in previous years getting a booking in May and June might be difficult to do, June especially, Memorial Day and the month of June, the restrictions from a school perspective are not going to be there as much, and you'll see folks looking to get away earlier. And so you can market your homes as such to try to leverage that higher level of interest for the off-season months, especially as we get later into the spring season. So that's what we're predicting. I'm going to turn it over to Joan to go through some of our lessons learned here and advice on marketing your home. So Joan, I'll drive here on the presentation if you want to take over.
Okay. Well, marketing begins with having your listing all ready to go, and that starts with your pricing and having your calendar all set for next year. As you can see, 78% of the inquiries that have been received by homeowners thus far for next year are for listings that have pricing and availability in place. Some people say, well, I like to give my last year's tenants, guests, an opportunity to chime in, and sometimes people give them until January. It's really, it's totally up to you, but the way we look at it is, you have to take advantage of every opportunity. We don't know what next summer is going to be like. And you're more likely to get your asking price if you book early. You're more likely to get parties who are looking for more than a week, if you would like that, and many people do, 2-3 week rentals. So it's really a good idea to have it in place. The other day I got an inquiry for a week that one of my last year's tenants, who has been with us for a couple of years, but on varying weeks, but she had expressed interest in a particular week for next summer, the same one that she had this summer. And I marked it off on my in booking management as a tentative. But then when I got an inquiry just the other day for that week, I emailed her right away and told her about the inquiry, and she wrote back and said, we'll take it. So you don't want to push someone to make a decision, but I think it's always a good idea to have your calendar all set. Now, there are some people who have said that their longtime guests who have come many years didn't come last summer because of the virus. And what do they do about them? If they stayed with you a number of years and opted out this summer, I think you definitely should go back to them and make them realize that, they are welcome back again. There's nothing like a repeat guest. We'll be devoting the third session, Friday, October 30th, to pricing. But just to say that generally, pricing is, people have increased their price between 2 and 4% over the years. The last couple of years have been the exceptions with the lodging tax. Of course, many people did not increase their price. This past year, many people didn't because they anticipated the virus and just had no idea of what to expect. But we had a poll this summer, about 50% of the homeowners who were on the session, on the Zoom session, said that they were going to increase their price for next summer. As you know, your prices, for managing your listing and especially cleaning, increased. So I think it seems appropriate now to increase your price. And again, with repeat guests, you can always be flexible. You could have a middle ground, or just inform them that you are going to increase the price, and if need be, negotiate with them. But and in terms of cancellations, there's no right answer here. It can be tricky. Normally, we all have in our lease a cancellation policy indicating that we do not refund unless we can rebook that week. That became difficult to pull off last summer, and most people had a much more flexible cancellation policy. You're more likely to get a booking now for next summer if you add some flexibility and indicate to your prospective guests that maybe you'll give them a month or two to decide on whether they will cancel or not. It depends also on your home. Some people have a very small home, 1 or 2 bedrooms. They book close to the summer, and so they could take the risk of saying, okay, I will give you, I will return your money if you decide within a month or within the 2 months. So it's really a case-by-case basis. But you always, and of course you would have a clause indicating that if there's a ban on short-term rentals, that you would of course refund their money. But again, there are some guests who are coming from a distance, and they may have some restrictions in their own states, just like this summer, or Massachusetts could restrict certain people from certain states. So there are a lot of ramifications here, and you have to take a lot into consideration. But they want that. I think guaranteeing more flexibility is really the way to go here. In terms of amenities, vacationers vacationed this summer and really spent a great deal more time at the home than they normally would. They were not out and about as much. They didn't go to restaurants. They cooked more. They used the house more, and they appreciated many of the amenities that homeowners supplied, whether it was yard games or or a fire pit, which is really very popular these days. The more you could make them feel comfortable and have them enjoy their stay, the more they enjoyed it. And this was always reflected in the guest reviews. People talked about the the things that they did at the home, and they're more likely to come back again next year. Prospective guests now, when they're looking at listings, they are looking for their guest reviews, and they're particularly looking for guest reviews from this past summer. They want to see how the homeowner handled the situation during this difficult summer. And there are, every guest review I read, and I've read thousands of them over the last summer, are the majority of them talk about how well prepared the home was, how it made them feel when they walked in the home and immediately felt relaxed and breathed a sigh of relief, because many of them were pretty anxious about coming. They wanted to have a vacation, they craved for one, but they just weren't sure what they were going to find when they arrived. So it's really important to ask some of your summer's guests to write a review, because the prospective guests are reading it.
Joan,
yes.
one takeaway just from all this that you've just talked about is what homeowners can do now with their vacation rental listings is do a review. The summer has passed. Do a review of your listing and make sure that you have everything that Joan has been talking about, pricing up to date, of course. But if you have a flexible cancellation policy, you can go ahead and put it in the description. If you and want to present it that way, the amenities, like take a look at it. Did you change something in your home, especially say the outdoor living space or area, and have you updated your photos? Potential vacationers are going to be looking at your listings in a new way, envisioning themselves not just how close is it to the beach and so forth, but like what's the outdoor living space like, where we potentially may be spending a lot of our time. What's the kitchen area like? What's the outdoor grill, or so it's an opportunity that maybe there's another photo or two that you might want to add there to just again showcase what is it like to stay there, and especially if you've made some changes in last minute, in June and July, you made a few changes during your rental. Make sure you get them back onto your listing for the full season.
Good point. Moving on. Oh, yeah. As you can see here, a vacationer this summer found their forever vacation home, and they attribute it in part to the great communication that the homeowner had with them. And here we have Rebecca, who commended the homeowner on supplying paper towels and wait,
it's a different one. It's a different one.
Different one. Talking about how responsive the homeowner was, and how much they went out of their way to provide a safe space for them. And this was a common thread in so many of the reviews that I read. Vacationers they were looking for a respite. They were looking for a place where they could feel relaxed and almost normal. And feeling normal is a great thing to have on a vacation. Communication, we have always emphasized this, and the importance will never be diminished, but it was critical this past summer, both leading up to your guest stay, and during their stay, and then after. But it's just crucial that you are responsive to them, and it really paves the way to building a relationship where they're entering into a financial relationship with a perfect stranger, and they have to be reassured that all is going to be well prepared for them. And you know, if you do this and something goes wrong while they're there, they're much more likely to, especially if you respond quickly when they communicate with you about an issue, much more likely to just roll with it and you know, feel that things will be okay. It's when communication breaks down and homeowners are not responsive that vacationers start to get, you know, the complaints come and the issues arise. So sometimes I feel like I'm talking to the choir when we talk about this. So, but it's just important to emphasize. And preparing templates, I mean, people have, prospective renters have common questions that they ask you. Rather than reinventing the wheel each time, have some templates ready with what the structure of what you do and how you prepare your home, what your home comes with, the amenities and even activities. Just have all those prepared so that when those questions come in, you can easily just fine tune it and make it personal and just send it off. And also take each inquiry as a marketing opportunity. Don't just, sometimes I see a response that says, nope, we're booked. And so you probably lost out on that vacationer, whereas many people will respond and talk about the home and then just say, you know, please consider us in the future. Oh, here's the one where they said that the homeowner couldn't provide linens or didn't, but they provided paper towels and paper bath mats. And, you know, this is such a small thing, and yet these small things added up this summer, and vacationers were indeed appreciative of the efforts that homeowners went through. And I think sometimes vacationers didn't know half of what you did to go through to make your home a safe place for them. What's next? Lessons learned. The cleaning requirements, you all adhered to them. And we don't know, I mean, they still apply now. We don't know how they will change next summer, or if they will change. Things may be fairly much the same. I'd say not as much angst. We know a lot more now, and you already have a lot of your, you know, your the way you conduct, you know, your, you know, whether it's cleaning or linens, and but it may be that we still have many of these in place, and so it's important to, you know, just continue what you're doing and with what you're supplying, and establishing a relationship with a turnover cleaning crew that you can depend on. As far as linens, many of you decided not to provide them this summer. Some people, you know, I went out and bought duplicate everything, you know, blankets and even pillows and bedspreads, so that, you know, I could have my cleaning crew, you know, alternate. But many people just decided to ask their guests to bring their own, and the guests didn't seem to mind. If they were driving there and could bring them, and it just felt safer, that was fine. And I think that linens bring a whole level of difficulty to a turnover. Many cleaning crews won't clean linens, won't do the laundering, so you have to hire someone else or rent them. I suspect that there might be some people who will continue that same pattern next year of not providing them and asking their guests to bring either the linens or linens and blankets. But it's a case-by-case basis. It also depends on the size of your home and where your guests are coming from. So it's you just have to make that decision and just decide, either per guest or for the entire season, how you're going to do it. Long-term guests were much more common both this summer and into the fall and winter. And if anyone had a long-term guest this summer, I was talking to a few people before this session, and they said it worked out really well. Many did, but some people had more issues with longer-term guests this summer, in that they normally, if they're there for a week, they're going to put up with some inconveniences, or there's something missing that they, in the kitchen or whatever. But if they're there for long term, they hunker down, they're going to be staying there for a long time. And especially in the beginning, I heard from some homeowners who said, I can't stand it anymore. They're asking so many questions and demanding so many, for me to change things or improve or bring some items. And so you just have to be careful, really vet them carefully, and have a good lease in place. And but long-term guests can be more demanding, but also for many people it works out well, and they just enjoyed having somebody there for a whole month and not having to worry about that interim turnover, cleaning and preparing for the next people. The adaptability is really the name of the game. I think that you just need to be resilient, and you were really called upon to be just that this past summer. So I think if you could do it this summer, you could, you can do it anytime. I just think that next year will be easier. There may be still some of the same restrictions, but I just think that we will be more prepared for what's to come. And just to remember that when you're renting your home, especially during these times, you are renting more than just, a roof over their heads. You're renting to them, you're providing for them a wonderful vacation experience, which we'll talk about more next year. But this quote really struck me as being something that many people, vacationers, experience this summer, just relaxing and a safe haven from everything that was going on. So good for you for allowing this to happen. I think there were many vacationers who went away wishing that they could just continue staying for the rest of the summer.
Right, that's the end of this part of the presentation. And Joan, you mentioned the guest experience on that last topic. We'll talk about the guest experience next week. That'll be I think, next Tuesday session. What we're going to do here, I'm going to take a screenshot of this if you'd like. If you don't know how to raise your hand virtually, I just put up a couple screenshots here for how to find the raise hand option, whether you're on your desktop or your mobile. What we'll do is take a few questions from attendees here. I'm going to stop the share, bring us back into this mode. So folks are welcome to go ahead and raise your hand. I'll also, if you missed that, I will add that to the chat here. How to raise hands. So if anybody has questions on that you want to ask here, feel free. I'm going to add it to the chat. I can't figure that out. Oh, let me just grab the first question. So we got Kelly up first, so I will ask to unmute. You'll have to unmute on your end, Kelly, and then ask away.
I noticed on the blog that you kind of wrote about the trends that you saw and are seeing, that there are a lot of wonderful graphs. Are you okay with us using some of those in our email marketing, as long as we credit you with putting them together?
Yes, certainly. Certainly, by all means. Glad to hear you're doing your own marketing on your end. So thank you, Kelly.
Jim, if anybody wants any of the graphs that you showed today during this presentation, is there a way to get those or see them?
Sure. I think for the most part, these graphs are kind of just similar to or the same from the blog that we wrote on the summary of the summer. So the main blog write-up that you'll see on our blog.WeNeedaVacation.com, you'll see the summer of 2020 wrap up, and that's where you'll see a lot of these charts, and that's what Kelly was referring to. Feel free to use that. And I think on that topic in itself is just, as I mentioned, Kelly's doing her marketing, likely outreaching to either past tenants or to prospective guests, or even doing additional outreach to attract visitors to her own listing. We recommend for everybody to be looking at, we love the ability to share content we share content to our vacationers, we share it on social. We recommend that you do the same. If you have your own personal social site for your vacation rental listing, or even just your own personal Facebook, Instagram pages, feel free to share content for about your own rental listing, but you don't always want to just post up your own listing in itself. You want to post up information, things to do in your area to help attract attention for your prospective guests. And we put a lot of our information out there. This summer, we marketed how to get back to the Cape and Islands safely and responsibly. It was our most watched video, I think, and it had a lot of information on COVID and what vacationers should expect, and what was going to be open, and what guidelines they should follow. And that's something that we sent out to all our vacationers, but also out to all of you homeowners, and would recommend you do the same. Whether it's your past guests, your prospective guests, here's some guidelines. If they didn't think about vacationers that did not come this year because of restrictions, because of health or any other related issue, and they deferred their vacation to next year, or they're still thinking about it, now's the opportunity to take some of that information and relay it back, showcase that the summer of 2020 was indeed successful for many, many folks. It can be done successfully in a safe way. So we recommend that you do find our content and share that content out to your guests or to your social pages. Any other questions here? Feel free to raise your hand. Again, we can't see everybody if you can't physically raise your hand. I'm going to post here too. If anyone's on chat, if you're looking to see how to raise your hand, I just posted up onto chat. You'll find it here. So it's too bad again that we can't be meeting in person for these what used to be our forums, but again, the fact that we're able to meet here virtually it has been great over the last few weeks, or over the whole summer, being able to meet with folks one-on-one virtually. I think a lot of good questions have been asked, and we've learned a lot throughout this whole process. Let me grab Patty here.
unmute.
Hi,
guess
Patty.
Oh,
Yeah,
hi.
you got to unmute on your end.
I have a couple of questions. One was on like insurance coverage. Is there any policies that the renter can get that would cover the lease if they, cover them if they have to cancel? I think a lot of these like travel companies like rule out things like viruses and stuff. But, I wondered about that, if there was any company out there that offers anything that if the renter has to cancel, we don't lose the rent. Because they could like come down with COVID a day before they come and
Sure.
you
Patty, there are some agencies that will provide insurance. We're looking into that right now and doing a more in-depth research. But when vacationers have asked us, we've always recommended several different ones, including Travel Guard. And I forget.
Are they covering COVID related cancellations? I thought some places.
Well, there is something called cancel for any reason.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And but that tends to be very expensive.
Yeah.
So, but it is possible to get it. And
Yeah.
if you're, if somebody's booking a house that costs $10,000 a week, they don't mind spending,
Right. Yeah. If they lose it.
Like-
Our rental's 1 bedroom, so it's not as expensive, but
right.
you potentially, if someone calls you and says, well, I feel sick, you don't want them coming.
Right.
But, on the
Well,
other hand,
and in that case, you have a 1-bedroom cottage that rents like in a minute. So,
yeah,
and
we
you have
might
so
get,
many
yeah, we
repeat
might get
renters,
somebody else.
you would
yeah.
probably just say, fine, I'll,
Oh yeah, if they
come
had to
come
cancel.
next fall or come next year or something, and
Yeah.
and credit them
Yeah.
for that. But again, it's a case by case basis. But there is insurance that vacationers can get, and it's particularly important if they are coming from out of state, because then there are more considerations to be made, and
Yeah.
traveling and the airfare and all of that. So.
What about, I was also curious, you did talk about linens. For us, it's a 1-bedroom, so it's not that difficult, but it's a king bed, which some people don't have king beds at home.
Right.
But I do a tremendous amount of linens because I do the mattress pad. I do, everything.
Mm-hmm.
The blanket. And I don't know that everybody does that. I don't think everybody necessarily does that, is my guess.
You mean changes all of that?
No, changes the mattress pad.
Yeah. No, I'd say on average people don't.
Yeah.
It just it becomes unwieldy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but I was wondering if you have any idea what percentage of people are now not supplying linens.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I don't.
you don't. Yeah.
You just mentioned mattress pads. I
would always supply a mattress
supplied.
pad. Somebody might use the bed without it otherwise.
Yeah. As I had said before, I bought duplicates of everything, including
everything. Yeah.
pads. So my linen person, who, she's not part of my cleaning crew, but it's somebody that I hire to do just the linens.
Oh, okay. So you supply the linens.
She changed,
everything.
It took her hours, but that's just what I felt I had to do.
Yeah. No, I was curious because I guess some people are not supplying linens. Well, the other thing I had thought of was you could always supply the bed linens because a king bed is a problem sometimes, but you could ask them to bring towels and that might help.
Yes. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. It really depends on the size of your house, the number of bedrooms.
Right. Yeah.
What
you want to do.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just know that there are people who normally supply linens and did not this summer.
Didn't.
So I don't know how many of those. Maybe somehow we could find out, Jim, how many people unchecked the amenity linens. But and we've spent hours, at past forums trying to
figure all that.
If it weren't for linens, the turnover would be.
Oh yeah, that's the big nut.
A lot easier. Yeah.
We did take off like a coverlet, so we have the sheets, 1 blanket, and then I had a 3rd sheet that I use on top, like hotels do sometimes.
Yeah.
And we did that. But I suppose you could not even do that if you didn't want to.
Mhm.
Because I wash the blanket anyway. I mean, do you wash the blankets every week too?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. But I don't think everybody does that, but I was kind of curious.
Yeah.
We
No,
can,
well, thanks. I'll let someone else ask a question.
thanks, Patty.
You're welcome.
All right, yes, Joan, we can take a look to see, just curious how many folks did remove linen rentals or maybe perhaps added it. We'll pull out some data on that. Let me grab a few people on here. Alicia, then Brian after that. So Alicia.
Okay, hi.
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 Just quick response to Patty. We removed all linens. We wrote in extensive letters to all of our renters. Most of them were repeat. No one had a problem bringing their own linens, blankets. We did even remove extra pillows from the beds. So, but that being said, it was not a problem for us. And we normally ask people to bring their own linens, but we have always supplied blankets and coverlets and pillows. They just have to bring their own linens and towels. So it was a little bit more for them this year, but not excessively so. But my question is, our cleaning service offered something called electrostatic cleaning. It was an extra charge. It was almost double what their normal cleaning charge is. We opted not to do, we allowed people to have the option to select that cleaning, but we passed the cost on to them. Because it would have made our cleaning service like over $500 between renters. So it turned out that nobody elected to have that service, although we offered it to them. However, our rental season turned out that we had rental cancellations. So we had a week between rentals. We have a full house that sleeps 8. So the house was cleaned and then it sat for a week before the next renters came in. Now, it reduced our income for the summer, but we were willing to do that to give people peace of mind that it was safer to come in. But how do people do it when you've got turnover like every week, like on a Saturday, which is our normal turnover time? So I'm just curious what you recommend, number of hours between people leaving, people coming in to clean, and then the renters coming in.
Yeah. Well, this summer, I mean, initially we wondered, oh, is the state going to, or the CDC going to dictate that we have to leave the home empty for 24 hours? That turned out not to be the case. And I'd say in general, people either kept the same, out by 10-ish, in by 3, or they extended the incoming tenant time to 4 or 5 o'clock to give more time in between, both for cleaning and to just have the house empty. And I heard very few complaints about that. I just think that people were not as anxious, vacationers weren't as anxious about it as they were more anxious to come in and start their vacation. And if it was thoroughly cleaned and sanitized and disinfected, almost all cleaning crews, came in with, they did all 3 of those things, and they applied a disinfectant to highly touched surfaces, and it seemed to work out well. So again, I think that people will probably continue with the same practice next summer and have, they might extend once again the check-in time to a little later. But I heard of very few who actually left the home empty for a whole day. I think that that could be problematic when you have a week to week rental, beginning on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Right.
Did anyone have anything to add?
Did anyone use the electrostatic cleaning that was offered from cleaning companies?
Is Elaine on? I think Elaine.
She's got her hand raised. If it's, we'll talk to her in a second. I think she's coming up. We have heard about the electrostatic cleaning, and some folks have definitely did do that. Just another extra measure, and peace of mind is a great thing this summer. It certainly was not the wrong thing to do to give folks a peace of mind. So you weren't the only one that used that, nor the separate week in between renters. Several folks have done that as well. whether that's needed for next summer, I don't think you have to go to that measure if unless that benefits you just for, again, your own peace of mind. But I think the main thing, as Joan mentioned, is just the communication. The one thing I would say is, if you're looking to extend the turnover time, you don't want to cut your cleaners short. If you're asking them, the turnover staff, to do more, you don't want to squish their time frame even shorter. Extend it by an hour or two. Vacationers are going to be understanding in this environment, and as long as you communicate what that will be and make it clear of what time they need to check out and what time they need to check in, and especially as you hear how many times vacationers show up at 1 o'clock when the check-in's at 3 o'clock and they just want to get in, you got to communicate clearly that it's kind of check-in time is check-in time, because there are things that need to get done and need to get done safely and efficiently. So that's what our recommendation would be.
I might add that vacationers, even when the virus is gone and in our rear view mirror, vacationers are likely to be more concerned about cleaning than they were pre-COVID. I think it's a new norm.
Yeah. Did anyone pass on that extra charge for the electrostatic cleaning? Because it was like a double if we opted for that than normal cleaning.
Yeah.
Is it fair to pass that on to the client? Because otherwise it really took a bite out. It would have taken a bite out of our income for that week rental.
Sure. Well, if you absorbed it, I'm sure many of your guests would have accepted that. But I don't know whether people passed it on or not. If you did, put it in the chat, or we'll hear from Elaine what she did in a moment.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Alicia. I'm just going to go down to, well, let's hear from, just in order here, Brian. Going to unmute you, Brian. I think Brian and Caroline. You might have to unmute on your end, Brian or Caroline.
Okay, there we go.
All right. There you go.
Okay, short-term rental tax. We've been collecting that tax all summer, July and August in particular. What's your understanding and what our requirements are to turn it over to the state of Massachusetts?
Well, originally it was supposed to be September 20th that all summer and spring and summer tax was to be remitted by September 20th. And then about 2 days before that, the governor extended it to next May 20th. So we put that on our blog, but by then most people had already paid it, and including myself. But there'll be no penalty, so you can wait until next May 20th if you care to. But it was all.
What basis do you pay? I know the percentage, and we have a certain amount that we owe, but we go onto the Massachusetts tax site. What type of information do you have to provide? You have to provide the total amount of rental, and then how much?
Yeah, you do it, Brian. You do it by the month. So you would log on to the Department of Revenue site and indicate, okay, I'd like to pay my taxes for July, and they would ask you what's the total amount that you took in for revenue, rental revenue, and then beneath that, what's the total amount that is taxable? And in most cases, all of it would have been taxable, but I don't even know what the exceptions would be. If you had a long-term 32-day plus guest, that wouldn't even be considered as short-term rental. So I think in most cases it would be the same amount, and then they calculate. They know how they know what your tax is for your town, and they will tell you. They'll tabulate it and tell you what you owe, and just cross your fingers that what you owe is what you collected from from your guests.
Okay, thank you.
All All right, thanks, Brian. We got one more here. Elaine, we're gonna unmute on your end if you can.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Well, it was a great season. It was we're still busy. I now have a couple from Colorado who are in the house until December.
Wow.
So, yeah, but oh boy. So I had, as you know, our housekeeper did all of the cleaning, the sanitizing and disinfection, and also used the fogger. And it was amazing, very effective. I had no complaints. We had people leave at 9 in the morning, which is early, but they left. She would come in at 8:30, start around the outside, do her thing, and then be mostly done by noon and have the houses available later in the day at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. And that admittedly was late, but I allowed people to park and walk if they wanted to go to the beach and that sort of thing. But I did make a clear statement about their safety and our safety for our housekeeper to make sure that the time was given for the house to air out and to freshen up. And that worked really great. On the linen supplies, we still supply linen. It's a big nut to crack. I send it out. We do the mattress pads, the blankets. I change the pillows, of course, the linen, the towels. I'm considering not doing the towels next year though, because that's heavy. Yeah, some changes. And what else did I have? I did charge them for cleaning this year, which I had never done. So I did, because the chemicals were so expensive and the paper products, and they were fine with that. And I was wondering because, you know, the tax, the linens, I don't charge for. The cleaning I did charge for. So I think I'm going to stay with that. I'm going to raise the cleaning a little bit, but I'm still going to provide linens maybe. I don't know. I got to be convinced. It's just that people come from so far away and they may or may not, many flew this year, of course. They all drove.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So Elaine, as far as the fogger was concerned, was that a separate fee than your cleaning?
No, that was included in the cleaning because she could go ahead and she had to don the mask with the respirator and make the solution, which is very simple. It's 1 to 32. And then she would start at one end of the house and just spray everything and walk out, walk out, walk out, back out, walk out, spray everything, close the door for 10 minutes, and then come back after 10 minutes and open the windows, turn on the fan, that kind of thing.
Do you think you'll do it again next year?
I think so. If we're supposed to be safe and if the restrictions are in place, it's not a bad thing to do. It doesn't smell. It doesn't have a bad aroma. And people really responded positively to knowing that that was done. You had provided many documents that I took and made templates out of, talking about templates. And I mentioned on there all the things we do. And then I had a checklist folder where a greeting letter was there. And then a COVID registration, name, address, contact information, which we kept if we had for the town. And then also my cleaning lady would check off what she did and sign the time that she was done. So, oh my God, it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
So that, and that. And then my last question is that now in the town of Barnstable, we're going through the whole ordinance thing. And at one point they were saying you'd have to live in your house for 3 months before you could rent it.
Yeah.
And I said, what the heck? But the new ordinance just came out. There's a meeting on November 5th. So I'm going to go back over it and see if there's anything else I can do. But VRBO, I'm not happy with them, but we're still with them. But VRBO had a seminar about having a local owners association help with, you know, going to meetings and that sort of thing. It's a little late in the game for that. But it was interesting to see that other areas like LA and San Diego have gone through this big time with Airbnb. And the last thing I'll say, because I can go forever, is that I really resent the use of Airbnbs to describe us, because we are not Airbnbs. We are our own individual businesses.
Right.
I made that statement on the town hall Zoom meetings many, many times, and everybody looked at me like I was a wacko blonde. And I said, well, okay, fine. But that's my thing, and I'm sticking with it.
Good for you. Well, I have heard about what's going on in Barnstable, and that includes the 7 villages of Barnstable. And, you know, we've been following that. One of the restrictions that this one group of residents wants to put in force in Barnstable is to limit the number of rentals, short-term rentals, to 1,500 for the entire 7 villages. I have no idea how they would manage that, orchestrate it, and reinforce it or enforce it. But that's one of the things. And they're really after investors who, when problems arise in a rental, there are too many people, there are parties, neighbors are complaining, they call the police. Sometimes these investor owners are nowhere to be found. And so one of the restrictions they want to put in place is that the owner or manager needs to be available within an hour of a phone call. So some of the restrictions seem okay, and I think people can, you know, can go along with them. You know, others might be a little overbearing. This 1,500 number, that kind of baffles me.
Yeah, it's hard
So,
because, you know, we've been grandfathered for how many years? I mean, how many eons, decades of this happening? You know, we're carrying on a tradition on Norris Street, and I don't know how they're going to select those 1,500. I think we should, you know, look at our history and see what kind of, you know, what a good community member we've been.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to do that. Maybe a letter would be good to send, you know, to that effect. I don't know, have to draft something that's, you know, for all the folks that are really good owners, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, we did send something out about 2 years ago, I think in 2019, when this group was first formed in Barnstable, and we sent, they took a poll, and so we encouraged all of our renters our homeowners to, in those areas, to respond to this poll, and then they criticized, you know, us for kind of having too many homeowners, you know, respond. So it does. We'll continue to follow it and keep people
just to hit on, I think we need to wrap up, but thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
I do, just to touch upon what Elaine was talking about. We do not consider ourselves, of course, as Airbnbs. We do consider ourselves, we Need a Vacation, and the collective group here of homeowners, a community of homeowners, a community of vacation rental homeowners, and we're all in this together. It's why we're meeting. We've been meeting over the summer, is to share ideas of what's working, what's not working, understand what the problems are, what the guidance that was coming out, and really collectively as a group do everything that's in the best interest for individual homeowners and for making sure that you're doing everything that's best for your guests. And you're not running this as, I mean, it is a business. You do have a home, and many people rely on that revenue, sure, but at the end of the day, you care about your home, you care about the community, your neighborhood, you care about your guest stay. That's why you have screening and the ability to talk to your guests over the phone or communicate directly with them. So we are going to continue to stand by our rules to let you have full control to manage your rentals the way you want them to be managed, to be able to control who comes to your home, be able to talk to them. And in doing so, what we're doing is creating this community where both homeowners and guests, you're getting the right fit, and you're getting somebody to come in to take care of your home the right way, and not on this end where the Barnstable issues that are being concerned with investors or letting anybody come in, whether it's the partiers or, we've heard plenty of stories there. So we're going to continue doing that. And as Joan started off this meeting, commending everybody here for doing their part on their end, especially during what a very difficult season this was. We're very proud that we've been able to get through this and do it very successfully. And so hopefully we continue that into next year as well. So we are going to wrap up here for today. We do have, like we started out, a few more meetings on the schedule. If you're interested and haven't registered, feel free to go to the Owner Series page and register for the next few. We will be meeting, I think the next meeting is next Tuesday at 1 p.m. So we'll send out a reminder on the day before, and then we'll compile this video for folks that were not able to watch. We'll send this out as well. So thank you, everybody. Joan, anything else to add?
No, the registration link is right on your homeowner center page. Just scroll down on the left a little bit and you'll see it.
And
But,
one more plug, of course, as we always do, to continue these discussions offline, or at least on social. We do have, if you're not part of the vacation rental homeowners community page, there's a group on Facebook that is upwards of 700 folks now, and you can join that, where you're going to see a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions on there now about managing your rental and getting some shared feedback on how certain folks are managing different situations. So it's whether it's a lot of questions on there about managing, a lot of questions about service providers in your area. So it's definitely a great resource for a lot of folks.
and how would they find that, Jim?
How would they find that? That will be in the, I guess we will have to send a summary out to the folks. I do think you can go on right now and search for it on Facebook if you search for Cape Cod Vacation Rental Homeowners Group. But we'll send out a summary after the Owner Series with a link to that. So that's a wrap.
Good session. Have a good week.
All right.
We'll see some of you next Tuesday. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. See you next time.